Laennec Ratard, FAA inspector, right?
Right.
So how'd you end up getting into aviation? How'd you get started?
Well, from when I was a little kid, I always loved airplanes. In fact, I remember one of my earliest memories is flying with my dad. I was born in the South Pacific in a small island chain called Vanuatu. Used to be New Hebrides. And my dad used to go inter-island. And he used to fly on these, I don't know if you know Britten Norman Islanders.
No.
A lot of mosquito sprayers still use them now, but they used to, it was a really good STOL aircraft, twin piston.
Yeah.
And it was a 135 operation, but obviously was not U.S., but I would sit up front. Like the pilots would let me sit up front. And I was like 6, 7, and I remember that, and it just stuck with me, and I've always loved planes since then.
Was he in the military, or how did you end up?
No, he was in public health.
Okay.
And so he was at the main, there was the main island was Port Vila. Well, the capital was Port Vila where he lived. And then he would go out to the various islands to do his public health surveys and clinics and stuff like that. And so the only way was either ship or plane. This is back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so you took the Islander. And a lot of times you're landing on little grass strips that are 2,000 foot long on a mountain or something like that. So the Islander is perfect for
And
that.
so you'd ride with him to all these different places?
Yeah, he would take me along. Not all the time, but yeah. And then usually the pilot would let me sit up front. And I mean, obviously not touching anything, but it was just fascinating.
Yeah,
and I used to love planes.
Especially the going from island to island and the small strips and all that.
Cool.
So that's what spurned the love, and then it just continued on and just.
So where'd you go to school? Where'd you learn to fly? How'd you end up getting?
No one in my family flew, and the contention was if you wanted to be an airline pilot, you had to be in the military. Without that, I never thought it was a career. You know, I never looked into it. And I joined the Marines, and I learned from some guys in the Marines that, oh, no, you could do it civilian-wise. So when I got out in 95, I went to Lakefront, took a demo flight. I enrolled in UNO and started my flight instruction.
So who
at
was
Lakefront Airport?
So was it a school over there? Or?
It was, it was a 61 school, kind of. I hate to give him publicity because he wasn't a nice guy.
Okay.
My instructor was awesome, but this guy was milking people along like you're ready to solo, and I don't think you're quite ready yet. And because he would have the authority over my instructor.
Yeah.
So it was one of those guys. But so I soloed and I left him pretty quickly. I was a fueler while I was at UNO. Part-time job. Well, I had a full-time schedule at UNO. I was at Transit Aviation. I don't know if you remember them, but they were at MSY.
Okay.
Is it an FBO?
Yeah.
Fueling airplanes there. And then I was a night guy, and I don't know if you knew Bank Air. You ever heard of them?
No.
They were a 135 cargo hauler. They flew MU-2s and Learjets, a couple other planes. And one of the pilots there said, got to talking to him, and he said, I'm an active instructor. And so since we both showed up at the night shift, I think 10 o'clock at the airport, we used to meet at like 7 o'clock at Lakefront. It was on his way to the airport. I would drive out there, we'd do the lesson, and then head over to work.
So you soloed, and then
soloed, and I finished my private with that instructor at Lakefront. Yeah. And they had a little flight school, not a flight school, but like a rental agreement. It was really nice. $35 an hour for a 172 wet. You'd book it online. Not even online.
Like
you'd call and book it.
Yeah.
And then you just fly, and then you leave a check in the hangar with the keys.
Wow,
And
that's
book
trusting.
And go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, very trusting.
Yeah.
So I used that for all the way to my commercial.
What were you in school for?
A bunch of stuff. Originally biology, because I love scuba diving, so I was trying to be a marine biologist. I got talked out of that by one of the professors. And then I switched to computer science. Back then was like an upcoming field. But that was a ton of math and more work than I was willing to do. So I switched to business, and I stuck to business till my junior year. And then I actually left UNO to go fly full time. I was flight instructing.
Oh, so you didn't finish a degree there?
Not at UNO. I finished at Embry-Riddle.
Okay.
But I left to go fly full time. I got a cargo flying job at 1,200 hours. So I was flying cancel checks and lab equipment.
Where was that? Was out of Lakefront?
No, that was for a company called, they're out of business now, but Flight Express.
Okay.
And I used to call them Fright Express.
Express.
But they were just 210s and Barons, and just, if you guys remember checks, y'all are pretty young.
Yeah.
But whenever you write a check, and I didn't know this till I started working there, the bank still pays you interest on your checking account till that check clears. And if they can gather all the checks, and for you it's nothing, it's a couple cents,
Yeah.
For the bank it's millions of dollars if they're big enough. So they would get all the canceled checks at the end of the day, ship them via airplane to a clearinghouse that would process them, get them to the feds, clear them, and then get them back to the bank.
Wow.
And that would reduce the interest they'd pay on you. And that's, remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but they used to mail you your canceled checks with your statement. And then if you look on the back, it had all these processing things. That was the result of us flying those checks around. It was a huge industry.
I remember that being a thing when I was starting to fly, because they would, cargo, you going no matter what the weather is, you're going, right?
Well,
I mean, that's what the stories you
legally
hear.
go. Because if it was, you 135 freight, you still have rules. So like I couldn't go below minimum. So if a half a mile was the minimum at the airport, it was quarter mile, I couldn't get in. So you didn't go. The line of thunderstorms,
there's
I guess more subjective because you have the squall lines coming through. The company wants, you got to get the checks there. They want to get paid. So find a soft spot. And now you're trying to find a soft spot in a line of storms with no radar.
Yeah. Yes.
I penetrated a line once or twice, and then the last time I did, it scared the crap out of me. I wrote a story about it.
Oh, did you?
Look up. It got published in Flying. What I learned. What is it? What I learned from flying, or something like that.
Okay.
In Flying magazine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did twice, and both times it scared me. Finally, I was like, I'm not doing it again. So I would fly up next to it, land, or just hold or delay till the weather passed.
What kind of airplanes were you flying again?
That was a 210 and a Baron.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go? You're like, I could do this.
Well, not every storm. This is what gets you. Not every storm is a killer. When you speed, do you get in a crash?
Yeah.
Every time you're driving on the interstate and you're like, what the hell? You kiss 95, do you instantly die? No. So you do it, and you're like, you don't do it a lot, but every now I'm going to pass this guy and I do 95 for a mile. And so when I first when I was flight instructing, we avoided storms. So you were close to them, wasn't bad. Then when I got the freight job, okay, there's a storm, I'm around it, I'm near it. I remember I was 3 months on the job going to Orlando. There was a massive cell around Orlando International. I was going to Orlando Executive. And because of traffic, the controller couldn't let me go over International, so I had to go around it, around Kissimmee, and the storm was right there, so I kind of went through it. I was in it. Extremely heavy rain, tons of lightning, was fairly smooth. And the controller was surprised. He's like, what's the ride like? I was like, fairly smooth, just lots of rain and lightning. And then my prop tip started glowing green from St. Elmo's fires, how intense the rain was. But it was fairly smooth. So it's like, okay,
that's not bad.
Not bad. Maybe a little chop, and it builds on it. And you're like, okay. And then this one particular night, I think it was like Christmas Eve or something, going to Tampa, and there was this nasty line. And it looked horrible. It was like from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, solid lightning.
Yeah.
Right? I knew it was going to suck. How bad could it be? Well, I figured out it was really bad.
Out.
I mean, I had a bruise on my chest from where the shoulder harness I popped up in an updraft, and I got hit with the shoulder harness hard enough to leave a bruise the next day.
Wow.
Things were floating in the cabin. It was terrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And that's when you really want to be out of it, too. I can imagine.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, but you're in it. I wasn't going to do a 180. I was going straight.
Yeah. How long did it last?
I was like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
It was, 20-mile stick.
Yeah.
So I had to, power back. I was what I thought was VA, but the speed is doing this.
Yeah.
And I was going up and down 2,000-foot increments.
Oh, no.
I think I hit some hail at one point when I started coming out at the end, on the backside.
Yeah.
It was bad. Now, there was a trick in the 210 where you could make the airplane a little more controllable. The 210's a high-wing airplane, so it was kind of like, imagine standing on a canoe, and if you could sit down, you make it a little more stable, so I could drop the gear.
Oh, okay.
Bring the CG down a little bit. It helped a little. It was still horrible, though.
Yeah. Was there a time frame that you had to get the checks to the?
Well, yeah, we had schedules. It was and if you didn't make your schedule, like I think that run I left at 11, and I was supposed to be in Tampa at 12:15, something like, can't remember. Going back 25 years, 30 years almost, but you had to call in like at the end of the shift when I got back to, I was in Miami in Opelika. I'd get back to Opelika in the morning after I went to Tampa and back, then Orlando and back. And then you'd have your times, and you'd tell them how much, how many pounds, and then your times, your off time. You do block. So it was block off, block on, so they would calculate your flight times. And then if you were late, you had to have a delay code. I want to say anything more than 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to have what was the reason? Freight delay, weather, whatever it was, and you'd put it on.
Yeah, so I was thinking if you stopped because of weather, you still had that time pressure to get there.
Now, I mean, if Tampa was forecast, and this happened a few times, the forecast was like a mile in fog. Mm-hmm. I showed up and they were, below 1,800 RVR, which was the minimum for the ILS.
Yeah.
So I would hold for 20 minutes, and usually you have a lot of fuel. The 210, because they would strip the interior, it was just a pilot seat.
Okay.
And so I could carry, it was almost like 800 pounds of freight.
Wow.
And I had a bathroom scale, so you'd weigh your boxes, stack them up, and then you'd have, that was topped off. So topped off in the 210, I always figured about 5 hours of fuel.
Okay.
So going from here to Tampa, I could hold 20, 30 minutes, and then I would divert to Orlando executive, wait there until it got better. I mean, I wasn't going to hold, because you're hand flying too. I wasn't going to hold for an hour.
Oh, no autopilot.
No autopilot. This is just a 210. The 210s they bought were GA 210s, and then you got whatever the previous owner put into it.
Oh, okay.
So if the previous owner was interested in, avionics, and this is, of course, late 90s, early 2000s, you got whatever was available.
Yeah.
I ran out. I had to shoot an ILS into Orlando one night, and I didn't realize until I was doing the ILS, but my glide slope stopped working.
Oh.
So how do you identify the final approach fix on an ILS? With the glide slope, I didn't have the glide slope, so I could have done the localizer, but I didn't know when to descend. And I found that out on, here I am intercepting. I still got the glide slope flag. I passed the glide slope. I still got the flag. I was like, okay. I went around, called air traffic, said, hey, I have this issue. Would you call the final approach for me? And so he did. I stayed with him because it's 2 a.m. He didn't flip me over to common traffic. There was no one there. I crossed the final approach fix. He's like, there you are. Thank you. Go to common traffic. And then I start my descent to the localizer and was able to get in.
Okay.
And that morning, when I got back to Miami, I went out and bought a Garmin 195.
Oh, yeah.
And I flew with that.
I was going to say NDB or something like that, or DME.
With this particular approach, you could do a cross radial, or you could use the final approach, the glide slope intercept. But I didn't anticipate that it wasn't going to be working, so I wasn't set up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had NDBs in the plane, and some airplanes had HSI, some didn't. It just depended.
So you did that for a few years, and
I did it for a year, and I got laid off.
Oh, okay.
My run went away, and then I was in Miami. I could have displaced the most junior guy was in Kansas City. So the DO said, well, you can displace this guy in Kansas City. And my wife had a pretty good job in Miami, and it was, all right, we're going to move to Kansas City for a 210 job. That paid okay, too. I mean, Flight Express paid, I think it was at the time, $19 an hour. It was duty hour. Maybe not 19. I can't remember what it was. It was decent pay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like when I was flight instructing, I was making $10 an hour, but that was when the prop was turning. It was off the hops.
Yeah.
This was duty hour. So I had my normal duty day was like maybe 12 hours. So, I made, I think it was maybe $10 a duty. So it was $120 a day, which was pretty good. I'm not going to make that flight instructing. So it ended up being a decent job. But to go to Kansas City for a 210, so I got laid off, and I went to work for an FBO in Miami for like 3 months, and then I got a job at Martin Air flying Caravans.
It's also cargo?
It's cargo. They feed everybody but UPS, and then do some ad hoc cargo. And they were based out of Addison, Texas, in Dallas area.
So y'all had to move to Dallas?
No, actually, that's the headquarters. So I went there to train, and then I got San Antonio standby. So San Antonio fed all the border towns from San Antonio, from pretty much Victoria all the way to every now and then El Paso, but mostly Del Rio was about the furthest west you went. And then I was a standby guy. So if anyone had overload in the morning or the evening, I would carry that. And I ended up flying maybe 3 days a week. So I got, starting from there.
Yeah.
So at Flight Express, I was flying 120 hours a month.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
The maximum, flight hours for 135 is 1,400 a year. I would be pretty close to that. It's 400 a quarter, 800 consecutive quarters, and 1,400 a year. I would be close to those because I flew so much. I went to Martin Air, and then it was skate. I flew maybe 500 hours a year in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really nice. You showed up at 5 a.m. You didn't have anything. They released you at 7:30. You went home.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
And then there was 2 of us, so me and the other guy alternated evenings.
Yeah.
So 1 week, that was all I did. The next week, I'd show up in the evening. If someone had overload, I went and helped them out. If not, I chilled out. Yeah, it was skate.
So overload, that's just...
So we were contracted, I think, for 3,000 pounds.
Okay.
And then all that stuff in San Antonio was for UPS. So if you're in Laredo and UPS showed up and they had 5,000 pounds, you couldn't put it on a plane, so they'd dispatch a second plane to go help that guy out. Same thing in the morning, leaving San Antonio. So there was like a mini sort in San Antonio for the UPS jets would come there and they'd break it down to the feeders.
Okay.
There was us. There was a couple other companies. I remember Ameriflight was there. They had a Metroliner or 2. There was another flight. I can't remember this company.
Are they
Air
still
Now.
around? I remember
Ameriflight?
Yeah, Ameriflight.
I think they are,
Yeah. And Martin Air?
Martin Air's still around,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember hearing about those when I was starting out, but...
the Caravan was a fun airplane.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a 172, but just beefed up and...
yeah,
do everything
you could pretty much throw anything in there. I mean, maybe not boxes and stuff, but if you were using it for
Or even boxes. 3,000 pounds is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And 3,000 pounds from San Antonio, say, to Laredo was an hour. So the math on the Caravan, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say 400 hours fuel burn the first hour, 300 thereafter.
Okay.
So with 1,200 pounds, you could take 3,000 pounds of cargo, and you had 2 hours 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So your alternate could be San Antonio. You go to Laredo, the hour back plus 45. So it was pretty good planning,
Yeah.
for that geographic area. And then we would do ad hoc charters on not your week off, but if you were standby and you weren't doing afternoon stuff, they would call you up. There would be a load of airbags in Del Rio. Go pick those up and then fly them up to Detroit or something.
So how long did you stay over there?
I did that for a year, and then was time to get some serious multi-time in my career. So I had applied to Mesa. I got hired. I had a ground school date at Mesa, which back then was paying $13,000 a year.
Oh wow!
But it was in an RJ.
Yeah.
And then I got offered a job at Mountain Air Cargo, which was a FedEx feeder flying an F-27, and they were paying $25,000. So I was like, well, I'll take Mountain. And then on top of that, they wanted to send me to the South America run. So I was like, hey, it'd be kind of fun, an adventure. So I did that.
So where would you go down there?
So the run from there was from Buenos Aires up to, it's near Sao Paulo. It's an airport city called Campinas.
Okay.
And it was that's, I don't know, maybe 50 miles north of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And that's what we did. Flew back and forth.
The same route. It wasn't dip multiple places.
So it used to be Santiago, Chile, but the F-27 didn't have the legs because Santiago, Chile is on the coast of the Pacific.
Yeah.
And then the Andes are like 50 miles to the east of Santiago, and they get up to like 25,000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we just didn't have they call it the drift down.
Yeah.
Your performance has to be such that single engine you could maintain the MEA. And we didn't. There was like one narrow gap where we could fly, but if there was a storm there or something, so they just took that off of us. So we just did the basically Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires and back.
So you didn't stay at Mesa? Wasn't very long.
I didn't go to Mesa at all. No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
you didn't even do training or anything. No.
I interviewed and got a date, but I was like,
yeah,
$13,000 was just
it's not enough.
Yeah, it was a big pay cut from what I was making at Martin Air. Now my wife was enthusiastic because she actually got laid off. She was working at a newspaper in San Antonio. She was a director of classified sales. Okay. But then she got laid off. So we're going to move home anyway. So Mesa I would have commuted, but I think I forgot where I was going to be based. It was like Phoenix or something. Okay. It was going to be a commute. I don't know if you ever commuted in your life. It's not fun. I commuted when I was at Martin Air. It was about a period of maybe 3 months while she was looking for a job in San Antonio. So I was trying to go from San Antonio to Miami. And, some days I could make it nonstop on Southwest, for instance, from San Antonio right to Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. Other days, I'd have to go, a circuitous route and maybe stay the night somewhere, and then I'd be home one day and I'd have to come back. It sucked. So yeah.
So how long did you stay at the other cargo place in
Mountain Air Cargo?
Mountain Air, yeah.
So I stayed Mountain Air for, I want to say, maybe 2 years. So South America was fun. It was 28 days on, 14 off. But the pay was really good because while I was down there, I got $30 a day for per diem, plus an extra, I think it was $900 a month, what they call supplemental pay, on top of the $25,000. So you add it all together, and I was making pretty good money for an FO basically. Yeah. The run in South America went away, so I got put back as a domestic floater, which meant I was home based, and then they would call me when they needed me. Now the runs, the FedEx runs usually are Monday through Thursday, sometimes Saturday morning. Yeah. The Thursday ones, they end on Friday morning and they airline you home. And then Saturday, obviously, and Saturday morning airline you home. And you go back out for Monday evening. So I was a domestic floater, and I was friends with the 121 chief pilot per se. But I think he lost his medical, so he wasn't necessarily the chief pilot. He was like the crew scheduler, but he was old chief pilot.
Chief pilot, yeah.
But I got to know him really well, and he left me at home for 6 months, basically. I think I flew
really?
1 week out of that whole 6 months.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I always tried to bid jobs or I had skate schedules.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then when that ended, they wanted me to move to Charlotte. We just had a new baby. We didn't know anybody there, and I was going to be on the road. So I was like, wow, it's not going to work out. So I came here to Acadian.
Okay.
Actually got a job at Acadian and moved to Lafayette and was flying for them.
So that was that was probably 2000.
That would have been 2006.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 5, somewhere around there.
And you stayed there how long?
I was at Acadian for about 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I know they're a big local company, but I didn't enjoy my time there. Nothing with the company. Maybe it was just some personality conflicts.
So then where'd you go after that? Did you go to the FAA then? Or
No, from Acadian, I went to FlexJet.
Okay. Yeah, Flex.
And then I was living in Lafayette for a little while. Then you had to move to Dallas because that's where I was based. So they airline you in and out of Dallas.
But right now you live in New Orleans, right?
Now I'm living in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
So FlexJet was there for a year, maybe 2-3 years. I got laid off in the financial crisis of 2009.
Yeah.
So then I went back to Martin Air briefly, but we were going to have to sell the house anyway because it was a big pay cut. So we were selling the house, moving to New Orleans, and then that's when I started contracting. And then I found the job as a chief pilot at the local charter there in New Orleans. Was there for 6 years, finally realized, hey, we need health insurance and a retirement would be nice.
Yeah.
So that's when I came to the government. But no one was hiring back then. Then after I'd been here a few years and everybody started hiring, but I couldn't go back to living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Moved back, contracted for about a year, got on with the charter in New Orleans, and then I came on with the FAA in 2015.
Who was the what charter is it in New Orleans?
It was Flightline First. They're still around.
Okay,
They're still around.
Yeah. Adam Juckett.
Yeah. So I say we. There was the DO there started it up, and then I came on board very quickly, maybe within 2 or 3 months after he got his certificate.
Okay.
And we upgraded to basic, and then we kind of built it up from there.
So since 2015, you've been with the FAA,
right?
Well, you started out going to inspecting different charters, right?
Yeah, so when you start off, everyone's an aviation safety inspector.
Yeah.
Then after you gain some experience, you finish training, they assign you an operator, and that's when you become a principal operations inspector.
So the operators can be 135 or 121. I don't know.
You have a FSDO and a CMO, Certificate Management Office. The CMOs do large certificates like the 121s, the 142s, like flight safety, CAE, things like that.
The big airlines.
The big
like
airline
Delta
stuff, right.
Okay.
Exactly. Smaller ones would be at the FSDO level, and that's usually 135. And even those out of that, like NetJets has a 135, but they're huge. So they actually have a dedicated office.
Okay.
Whereas in Baton Rouge, nothing is that big, so you could have you won't be the sole inspector for that operator unless they're a unique operator like a helicopter EMS company.
Okay.
So if you oversee one of those, that's all you do. But if you oversee airplane 135s, you could have multiple of those. And then Baton Rouge is a helicopter-centric office because of the large helicopter operations here. A lot of the biggest carriers are based here.
Yeah, based here in that fly out to the Gulf and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've moved around to different carriers, correct?
So at the FAA, I was a local inspector, POI for various operators. Then I left the FSDO briefly to go to the DFW CMO, Certificate Management Office. It was based in DFW.
Okay.
And they oversee large certificates. So I was attached to the PSA certificate, PSA Airlines.
Oh, yeah.
So I was on their certificate. Now, it's kind of a weird office. So DFW is the main office. The PSA CMO was actually headquartered in Cincinnati.
Okay.
But PSA was the airline is based in Dayton, Ohio.
So you had.
So I would be out of my house, remotely sited out of my house. But most of PSA operations originate in Charlotte. Pilot training is in Charlotte, so I would wake up, I would enroute. That's what we call it's a jump seat, but you're doing an inspection on behalf of the air carrier.
Okay, so you're just looking at the pilots and.
So I'm watching the pilots work. I would go to Charlotte early in the morning, not necessarily on PSA. I would be on American, for instance, because they had a 5 a.m. flight, and I would get to Charlotte, and I would go to where PSA was. Tell the manager of the ramp there that hey, I'm here. I'm going to be doing ramp checks and whatnot, or whatever my inspection task was for that day. I would go do it. Sometimes I'd go to the training center and observe training because the main training for PSA was in Charlotte, which is for American Airlines.
So they would assign you something. Right. The FAA would assign
the POI would assign like, hey, I need you to go. I'll give you an example. The CRJ 900. So PSA operated 3 types: CRJ 200, 700, and 900. The 900 has 2 cargo compartments, a forward and an aft. There were a few instances where the pilots had trouble trimming the airplane for landing because the cargo load report they got was erroneous. It said they had so many bags in the back and the front, like they would divide the bags. Turns out they were all placed in the front, so they had the nose was too heavy, basically. So my job was, okay, so now we realize this problem. Now the operator has to come up with a fix for the problem, and they proposed it, and then we go out and inspect them and make sure they're complying with their proposed fix, and it's working. So that was, one of the grunt jobs I got was, all right, go to Charlotte and go do this, and then also around here. So PSA flies to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Pensacola. So I would go meet the planes at those various locations and at Charlotte, grab the cargo load report from the captain right when they parked, run downstairs and then watch the rampies unload bags. Literally just count the
Count
bags.
the
All right, there was
bags.
10 in here. There were 20 in there. That's what they put down.
Yeah.
Just making sure that their new procedures were working and they were complying. I did that for a couple months. Then we were satisfied, so then let's move on to do something else.
The pilots just get a report, and then they.
Yeah, because the pilot's not out there throwing bags in
Yeah.
there, so they have to rely on what the ramp is telling them. And the rampies are trained, and they're supposed to do their job, and they're humans, so sometimes people get lazy, or how many did you put in there I wasn't watching, or they're short-staffed, underpaid, just like a lot of people, and so...
Is rampy their technical name?
Well, they actually call it below the wing and above the wing. So above the wing would be your flight crews and then your customer service reps, gate agents, all that stuff. Then below the wing would be ramp personnel, the ramp supervisors, things like that. They handle servicing the aircraft, the maintenance guys. They would handle pushing back the airplane, loading cargo, dumping the lavs. So I remember I had an inspection, and I was very excited. Bradley, Connecticut.
Okay.
I was excited because there was this dude. He died, but he was a YouTube chef.
Oh, okay.
Captain Jack, and he was
Bradley,
like an hour.
Connecticut is his name?
No, the
okay.
base is Bradley, Connecticut. And I saw on my plan that, hey, I got to do an inspection Bradley, Connecticut. And I was like, I'm gonna go eat at Captain Jack's.
Yeah.
So I remember being all excited. But that was one of the things. I went and watched him push back an airplane, and I got the guy's name who did the pushback.
Yeah.
Then I go to the records and say, hey, can I see so and so's training record? And then make sure that he's tow qualified. All right, there's his. All right, that's when he was qualified to tow airplanes. And you go out and you do your inspections, your ramp checks, and you're making sure. I would see the guy fueling the plane. I'd go get his name, watch his procedures, make sure he complied with everything. Then I would go over to the fueling office, ask for that training record, make sure that he was indeed trained.
And on American, would you watch the pilots there, or you were just? Oh,
yeah,
no,
I would
just
do.
right.
So you would get what's called a DCT, a data collection tool.
Yeah.
And it'd have a list of questions.
Okay.
And then based on what the certificate management office, the principal inspector, let's say, for instance, hey, we've noticed the pilot deviations are increasing in Charlotte because guys are missing the step. This is an example. It never happened with American, but they're missing the step down fix. So I want you to make sure that they're briefing the approach and make corresponding altitudes are entered in the FMS. And so you're sitting there watching and make sure that top of descent, they pull out the chart, they start briefing the approach, and they hit all the target altitudes. And all the airline crews are extremely professional. They all do it. Even I'm sure they're not doing it for my benefit.
Yeah,
you could tell because it's well oiled. It's well practiced.
Yeah, it would be a lot of mess ups. If they were just throwing.
When I do check rides, I can tell if you don't use a checklist normally and then you're doing it for my benefit, you stumble through it. It's not natural.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget steps because your habit. Stress makes you regress to what you know.
Yeah.
But these well practiced.
Even though you were going over there for PSA, you would still be. And so your commute is American, but you would still watch what they're doing on American.
And that would be any airline, like United, Southwest, and that's part of the agreements the airlines have with the FAA is that we can use that jump seat.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to use it for transportation, but we can help out. It's like a dual benefit. We're helping out that management office because they don't have the personnel to just en route all day and watch guys. So because we're asking for a ride, we're getting our side benefit of being transported somewhere.
Yeah.
But our main function is to do this inspection for that office.
Okay.
We have 3 levels. Level 1 of on-the-job training after you've been to school is you read about the task. Level 2 is you watch someone do it. Mm-hmm. Level 3 is you do it with a supervisor, with a trainer watching you do it. Okay. So you're en route. Once you get en route class and all, you can never have more than 2 inspectors. You can't have more than 1 inspector on the plane. So you're kind of going out to the wolves. So your trainer puts you on a flight. We usually use a 121 airline, and you go to Dallas and come back or something like that. You just kind of brief them.
That's part of your training.
That's part of the training. Yeah. So I'm one of the trainers in the office, so I bring folks down to MSY. All right, here's the cockpit, here's the captain, blah, blah. This is the emergency equipment you're looking for in the back.
Yeah.
This is what a flight attendant looks like. They don't have to, just kind of explain everything because these are maintenance guys too, and some of them may have never flown. So you just training them up on everything. But then when the door closes, they're on their own, and you're like, all right, look, make sure you chew with your mouth closed. You don't scream, be polite.
It's like a solo, like a first solo.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but my first one happened, it was weird. Back then, there was an airline called Glow. It was a 135.
Mm-hmm.
Glow?
Yeah, Glow, GLO. And they flew Saab 340s. Okay. And they flew from New Orleans to Shreveport. I think they went to Destin and Little Rock or something like that with plans to grow.
Yeah.
And so I en routed on them to Shreveport and back.
I guess their plans to grow didn't go too well.
No, I mean, I think they ran out of funding. It's hard to make money in Louisiana if you're just operating a small airline here. It's been tried before. I don't know if you guys remember in the 80s. There was Royal Airlines, L'Express, U.S. Airways had a contract with Mesa where they flew Beech 1900s.
Okay.
They would go to Fort Walden, or the Eglin Destin area.
Yeah.
I think they did go to Shreveport, maybe even Little Rock.
I think recently there's been some that try to do Destin. I thought out of Lafayette is what I'm thinking.
There was a Cirrus airline. I think it was called Sats Air.
Okay.
It was all 135s. They had scheduled flights.
Yeah.
And they were leaving out of the terminal building at Lakefront to Destin.
Yeah.
Then someone came in. I forgot the name of them, but they had a Caravan flight that went to Destin and a few other locations. It's been tried, but it's just the margins are so small, and you can't make it $100 or $50 to go to Shreveport. You can't compete with the price of gas.
Yeah.
And it's not that long a drive.
Yeah.
That's why no one flies to Baton Rouge, and it would be so nice if it would have survived, but
because you beat all the traffic.
You beat traffic. I mean, the round trip for me too. I don't usually like the overnight. I sleep better in my own bed. So if I'm going to Shreveport, I go up. It's a 4-hour drive, 4.5. I do whatever I got to do, and I drive home.
Yeah, it's
a long day. Sometimes 16 hours, depending on what I'm doing up in Shreveport.
Yeah,
I'd rather do that than overnight, but it's still not fun. I'd much rather fly, get a rent-a-car, crew car, go do what I got to do, and then come back.
Yeah. Well, it worked in Texas, Southwest.
But those distances were a lot longer too.
Texas is big.
Yeah, Texas is big.
Yeah,
nobody wants to drive across Texas.
No. But I mean, the original triangle was Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, and those are about 3.5 hour drives between the cities. Mm-hmm. But you had so many people. Going in between. How many people are going to Shreveport and back every day?
That's right. There's so much.
Right.
Like 7.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like Glow had a morning flight, and then they had the evening coming back. So they would go up in the morning, do a round trip, and then they would do one more in the evening to Shreveport. So I actually stayed on the same plane. We got up there, they did boarded passengers.
And they waited for you?
Well, no, I sat around waiting on them.
Oh, I got you.
Because I just walked out in the terminal, waited. Then they got back on, and we flew back to New Orleans.
So you just had to make sure they were doing everything they said they were supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's most of the job.
You're just making sure they comply with. Honestly, if you're not working for that air carrier, everybody, 737 is an airplane that's going to fly one way, or all planes. But United is going to fly different than Southwest and American. They all have little nuances, and without knowing their training system or knowing the nuance of their training programs, I don't know their jargon, so I don't know. They could be just BSing. They're not, but you don't know exactly what they're doing. But I mean, you're going to land with the gear down.
Yeah.
So they're going to put the gear down at some point. They're going to put flaps. They're going to manipulate power. They got to make air traffic, restrictions.
Yeah.
So you kind of have the ballpark picture of what you're looking at, and that's where you put it together. And then a lot of times you're doing en routes on airplanes you're not type rated on too. I'm not type rated on a 737. So but again, they got to put the wheels down.
Yeah.
There's certain benchmarks they got to do.
Yeah.
And as a pilot going around, and part of your training is, I might know the exact memory items for that airline for certain things, but in general, that there's going to be a before takeoff or after. There's a before start, an after engine start, a taxi check, a before takeoff, an after takeoff, a cruise check, a descent check, before landing, and an after landing. So you're looking for those. They're doing those checklists, things like that.
What happens if they don't?
Well, if they don't, it's technically a violation. They're not complying with their SOPs and the manufacturer's procedures. So
what do you like? What happens?
So we don't. We enforce administrative law. So flying is a privilege, not a right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Constitution protects your rights. So I can't come on your car. I can't get in your car and do a ramp check and then do an en route from here to Baton Rouge watching you drive, right?
Yeah.
But on the airlines, because flying is a privilege, and we give them a certificate that allows us to get on there and do these inspections and check them. But I don't have arrest powers. So all I can do is make note that, hey, on this date you were PIC, you allowed this to happen, or you did this. And then I file a report when I get back to the office, and it goes through the chain. And then
they still
might
fly.
be subject. You can't stop them. I mean, we can do an emergency. If I think the guy is a danger to the public, I can do an emergency revocation, which is a huge deal, and you better be 100% sure that this is it. So I'll give you an example. The guy actually showed up drunk and flew a leg drunk.
That happens all the time.
And he got caught.
I feel like it's on the news all the time for airline pilots. Yeah.
And he got caught. And then so when he landed, they were there. They got him. They did a breathalyzer.
Yeah.
He was over the limit. So we did an emergency revocation on that guy, but it wasn't instantaneous. So he was fired right away.
Right.
But the next day he could have gone somewhere and gotten a job if they were desperate and flew at least for about a week or two until the emergency revocation kicked in, and then his certificate was suspended.
Gotcha.
Suspended. I think it would have been revoked in that case. Yeah. You hear stories about the inspector you don't have your medical's not current. I can't let you fly, and I'm gonna go lay down in front of the airplane. Yeah. That doesn't happen. We can't do that.
I haven't heard that one, but yeah, you always hear these horror stories of oh, the FAA's coming and they'll take your license from you and all that.
We will eventually win, but maybe not right then and there. Like the state police come out, they could take your license and arrest you right then and there. I can't. All we could do is do the things. Now, let's say we were out here and someone showed up to fly drunk, and I knew they were drunk, I would talk to them, hey, probably not a good idea to fly. Why don't you call in sick or something? No, I'm flying. Well, I can't physically stop them. Oh, okay. Well, I got all their information, and we're going to do a retroactive action. However, I could call the state police, for instance, because there's laws in Louisiana that prohibit you from operating a vehicle under the influence. Well, aircraft or vehicles. So the state police or the Lafayette PD could come out and detain you and breathalyze you, and then they could charge you with operating a vehicle under the influence.
Okay.
But they could arrest you and stop you.
Yeah.
But I couldn't physically stop the person.
So you also inspect DPEs and stuff too, right? Is that part of your job?
Oh.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, surveillance. We call it surveillance of a DP. So remember, a designated examiner, pilot examiner, or even an aeromedical, an AME as an aeromedical examiner. These folks work for the FAA. But we don't have enough resources to do everything ourselves. That's why we designate people to help us out. And so they're multifaceted. So you got the pilot examiners, there's maintenance examiners, there's their maintenance has a bunch of different designees, some of them like approved field repairs, stuff like that. I don't know the terminology. I'm a dumb pilot.
Yeah.
But my field would be the designated pilot examiner. And so I think the rule is every 36 months they got to be observed, the new rule.
Okay.
But if it's a high-activity DP, it could be more. So typically most of our DPs around here are high activity. And high activity just means they have more activities than the national average.
Yeah.
So if the national average is 100 check rides a year and you got a guy doing 200, well, of course, he's high activity, so you could do more surveillance.
Okay.
If you thought it was warranted. The minimum is like I say, every 36 months.
Do you just go on a check ride with them?
That's exactly right. And it's tough because if someone shows up in a 152, two-seat airplane, I can't go with them. So you have to kind of plan it when they're going to have a plane that could take the weight, make sure the student doesn't show up with it topped off. And so we have to observe the oral exam and then the flight exam. You
have to make sure the student's okay with it, or you're just like, sucks.
It's kind of sorry for the student. They don't. They can't. Now the student always has I want to discontinue because for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You can't compel them to take the check ride.
Sick all of a sudden.
They can get sick.
Yeah, I'm not doing this. There's two of them.
Yeah.
Now they're nervous. They're nervous from the get go. But you tell them, we're here to observe the DP, not the student.
Yeah.
It could make it even better. Like, we're here to make the DPE nervous, not you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah.
But it's now in the old days it used to be intuition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the old days it used to be not intuition, but you had the practical test standards. But prior to that, it was kind of can you fly? It was kind of there was a written procedure, but not really. Practical standards have been around for a long time. But then they got tight, and especially now with the ACS, there's not a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, if you go by the book, you're good.
The DPs are bound by the ACS, and we are too. When I do check rides, I have to follow the ACS. I can't just say, I didn't like that crosswind landing you did. I have to have a criteria to measure it against. I can't just give you an unsat because I felt like you weren't unsat.
Yeah.
If you did a crosswind landing and you were 5 feet from the center line, is that out of standard? Not really.
No.
I mean, it's not professional level, but it's not, we're not in the grass. You control the air. So it really takes a lot of your intuition out. There's a standard. You got to measure by that standard.
Yeah. How long has the ACS been around? Because I remember
it's fairly
when I started.
new. I mean, within the last couple of years, it was PTS for a long time, and then they started transitioning. And that came about because they hadn't rewritten the writtens in so long.
Okay, yeah.
So they wanted to rewrite questions because they had they're asking questions about NDB still.
Yeah. No
one's doing that. Right.
They're not
even repairing them. They're
a lot of
decommissioned.
them. Yeah.
So they overhauled the question bank, and when they were doing that, they had to overhaul the exams because they referenced the question bank.
Yeah.
And so in doing that, then they came up with the ACS, which I think is an improvement over the PTS. If someone knows the ACS very well, they know what's expected of them on the check ride, it's going to be fairly easy.
Yeah.
It's preparation. Preparation goes a long way. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't let people pass because they weren't below standard, but they may have been sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
But their oral and their prep was phenomenal. Like they
Yeah.
were prepared, they knew it, and it just lacked the actual flying experience to be really sharp, but it was safe and passable. Whereas maybe in the old days, you go, I'm going to get you on sat today, go practice and come
Yeah.
back.
So how many check rides do you do as a inspector? Do you do that many? As
So
far
they-
as like private certificate or commercial
It's
certificate?
discouraged for us to do it because we'd rather DPs to do it because it detracts us from our main jobs
Yeah.
of surveillance.
Oh, so you could act as a DPE.
Yeah, I've done it before. I like flying, so I used to do that. When I was an inspector, someone would call, hey, I got a student's been canceled on 3 times. They got to get to him next month. And I think that's unfair to a student to have to, okay, I got to maintain proficiency for my check ride, even though I'm ready now.
Yeah.
So I would clear up, a couple hours of my schedule, come out and do a private or an instrument or, CFI initial. I like doing that.
That's cool.
And that in my book is surveillance because I'm not only surveilling that student, but I'm surveilling the instructor that
Yeah.
puts the product out, which is
Yeah.
part of our job is surveillance.
Well, and I've said that whenever you send a student to a check ride, you're getting tested too as an instructor.
Exactly.
How well did you teach that student?
Now, the student could have a bad day. It doesn't
Yeah.
always reflect on the school, but you can tell. I wasn't trained in this at all, and it's obvious when someone just screws it up. I know what I'm doing, but I looked away for a minute and
Yeah.
got off altitude.
Were you ever a DPE?
No,
Okay.
People don't have to go to a DPE to get a certificate, right? They can
no,
still
you could call the FSDO.
Call the
What I
FSDO.
used to do, I have to justify what I'm doing to my boss,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can't just say, "Hey, for fun, I'm gonna go do all these private check rides
Yeah.
for Owen's flight training."
Yeah.
They're gonna say, "Well, you got other stuff to do because we
Yeah.
investigate, we do surveillance, we do certifications, so I can't just do check rides, right?" But I would have you, all right, send me an email, tell me that particular DP canceled twice on you, and then the next time he can get to you is next month, and you've checked with 3 other DPs, and same thing.
So
And I can go to my boss and say it's an unfair burden. I'm free on Friday. I can drive down to Lafayette, do this check ride, gets me out the office, and while I'm here, I'll go look at Acadian too,
Yeah,
or something.
okay,
So you
yeah.
can combine it, make it efficient. So we gonna have to work smarter, but
Yeah.
it's definitely doable. So that's an option. It's not the preferred option, but if you run into an obstacle with DPs, now it depends on staffing at the FSDO too.
Yeah, well, I've heard when I first started, you could either go to the FSDO and get a check ride, which would be free, or
Right.
you could get a DPE to do it. Most people went with the
That's
DPE.
still, I mean, you can do that, but
yeah,
it's preferred that you go to a DPE
yeah,
just because that's all they do. It's not all they do, but I mean, it's not all they're not supposed to be professional DPEs.
yeah.
They're supposed to be
Oh, they
active
want
community pilots
yeah,
that
okay.
are,
have another job.
leadership roles in the community and
Yeah.
aviation, and they do DP stuff on the side. Like a DP that's a chief pilot for an outfit. He's also a check airman for that outfit, and he does DP functions on the side.
Yeah, okay.
We used to have professional DPs, and then they came up with this requirement for currency. That is pretty tough if you're going to go rent airplanes to try and do it. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to have a job
Okay.
to do it. Now, some people maybe make enough money to have their own plane and they're able to maintain currency, but the idea is that they're in leadership positions in the aviation community, be it airlines or 135s
Yeah,
or chief instructors or
Yeah.
something.
Well, as a flight instructor, you'd have to go do your check ride with the FAA.
It used to be, yeah, and that was just policy at the FAA. We had a particular inspector who enjoyed doing initial CFIs, and so that was the rule. All initial CFIs had to come through the FSDO.
Was that just locally, or is that was all over the country?
No, that
right?
was just, it might have been, I don't know, I can't speak to the whole country, but that was the position of the Baton Rouge FSDO.
Okay. All
So
right.
if you're in their geographic footprint, your initial CFI had to be done at the FSDO.
Yeah.
And at the time, the particular instructor had an 80% fail rate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So people were very reluctant. They would go to DPs outside the state.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to do it in the state, you had to fly to Baton Rouge. Sometimes he'd come to you, but you'd usually fly to Baton Rouge. This is when I did it. The FSDO was at the airport.
Okay.
You know where BTR Jet is now?
Yeah.
That was I think it was Civil Air Patrol now. That was the old FSDO building.
Okay. And I remember I had to do that too, and I got my CFI in 08.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I
Who
had
was,
to.
did you do it with O'Neill?
I did it with Todd Miller.
Okay.
I don't know if O'Neill was. I don't know what happened.
I think he was still there around then, but
I think he was too, but
he did my initial.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't end up doing mine, because I think I had to call and I had to say I wanted to do CFI check ride, and then I guess they just picked whoever.
That could have been, but yeah, that
Maybe
was a
O'Neill
thing.
was
That
busy.
was just local policy. I don't know if it was national.
Yeah.
But that we got busy when I came on in 15. We were still doing that, and then I think around 17, the manager decided that we were too busy, and we were going to allow DPEs to do initial CFIs.
Yeah.
And maybe that was national, because I remember that decision came down from like the DP management office.
Okay.
So maybe it was a national policy where all initials had to go through the FSDO.
Because I remember that you would only reason you would get a DPE is if the FSDO was just so busy nobody could do it, and then they would designate a DPE.
They would give you an exception to go do that, so
Yes.
that could have been, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
But I like doing initial CFIs. I thought they were fun. Plus, it was a day out the office. Back then, we were driving to the office every day.
Oh yeah.
So I'd go meet someone at Lakefront or Lafayette or whatever, and just hang out. You know, it's a long check ride.
Yeah, I met Todd here in Lafayette. I think he lived.
Well,
here.
Todd lives in Brobridge, so yeah.
So
it's perfect.
we met, and it was when Paul Fournette building was
Yeah.
still here, before they tore it down, and we did it. They had closed, so we did it upstairs.
Yeah, it's
So-
a long day, but it's,
Yeah.
as an inspector, it's a nice day. You're out, talking aviation, flying.
Yeah,
And the check ride is easy because by the time you're doing your CFI, you know how to fly.
yeah.
So it's not like you're worried about intervening or anything like that.
Do y'all have to do anything as flying wise to stay current and stuff?
So typically they keep us current every quarter, they call it. We do quarterly flying.
Okay.
We go to Alliance, Alliance Fort Worth Airport. It's north of
yeah.
Fort Worth,
Yeah.
AFW.
Yeah.
We have a flight academy there. And then so you'll do your single engine land in a 172,
Okay.
multi-engine land in a Seminole, and then your turboprop, if you're so qualified, you'll do it in a King Air.
Okay.
So the 172 for single engine land lets you give any single engine land check ride,
Okay.
as long as it's not turboprop, unless
Yeah.
you're turboprop qualified. It's weird. And that's for like a line check. So you could do a line check in, in a Beaver
Yeah.
because you're single engine land now, and in your Seminole multi-engine land, you could do a line check in a 747 because now you're multi-engine land
And you did
because
it.
you did your Seminole check.
Okay.
And then to do anything turboprop, you do your King Air, and that allows you to do actual check rides in like a PC-12
Okay.
or a King Air that's
Yeah.
non-type rated. Then if you're doing check rides in type rated, but check rides in type rated aircraft, the line check is different.
Okay.
So for 135, you have a 293, which is your competency check, which is your aircraft specific. So you have to be type rated to do that. Any type rated required aircraft, any aircraft requiring a type rating, you as the inspector have to be typed and current in that aircraft.
Okay.
So if I'm giving a check in a citation,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm asking systems questions and all that, I need to know the systems.
Yeah,
right?
you should know. Yeah.
So to do that, you have to be type rated and qualified. Same with the 297 is your proficiency check or your instrument check. You have to be, again, type rated and current. So we can basically anything 12.5 and less that doesn't require a type rating, we could do check rides in.
You do type rating check rides, I guess, in the plane too,
I mean, you could.
Yeah. But
It's
most of the time
preferable
it's
to do
done
it in
at
a sim.
like flight safety
Right.
or SimCom or whatever.
Right.
CA, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now we've done them because
You may not have a simulator, huh?
well, the simulator was tough to get to, and they just wanted to do it. The operator needed to get it done because the guy was going to expire.
Oh, yeah.
So then you have to find a resource pilot, an inspector who's current qualified. They come in. So in a citation, you get someone who's current qualified in a citation. They come in. So I'm type rated in the citation, but I'm not current. So I couldn't give you a check ride in a citation. So I have to find someone who's current in the simulator. They come out. I go with them because I'm your POI,
Yeah.
and then we do the full blown stalls, all that stuff. 3 or 4 approaches and whatever's the requirement.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, it's better in the sim. It's cheaper in
Yeah.
the sim.
Yeah, and you can I mean, the simulator's better all around because you could do so many things
Right.
that you can't really do in the airplane.
Exactly. You can do it in the airplane. It's safer in the sim. For
Yeah.
instance, in a transport category aircraft, you're required to demonstrate a takeoff from an engine failure after V1. So we're rolling down the runway, saying a King Air 350 is a transport category aircraft.
Yeah.
So let's say V1 is 85 knots. So you hit 85 knots, and then you have to pull an engine back. And we're still on the ground. We haven't rotated
Yeah.
yet. I got to pull a power back.
So hopefully the guy.
So yeah, I mean the margin for error at that instant is,
Yeah.
when you're flying, if I pull the engine back on you, or an engine fails, you have a couple of seconds, 4 or 5 seconds to realize what's going on, hit the rudder. But right at that instant, at V1, the engine fails. You got maybe a second or two, and if you don't catch it, we're off the side in the runway.
Yeah.
In an instant.
Yeah.
It's not desired to do it. But that's the requirement if you're doing it in a transport category airplane. You're supposed to do that. So it's better that you demonstrate that in the sim versus, in the actual aircraft. All the rest of the maneuvers are pretty easy. I mean, there's a decent margin for error.
Normal stalls and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Or the single engine landing. You're going to fail an engine and then you intercept your final approach fix.
Mm-hmm.
And you're coming downhill. So the margin for error there is a little bigger than the V1 cut. You got any questions about 141 stuff?
I put my information back in, through the system, and I know it takes a while.
That's all. The best advice I could give is just be ready. Have all your manuals ready, your TCOs, your company procedures. The more ready you are, the faster it's going to go. If they have to read it, your team, whoever gets assigned it, reads it. We got to change this. This doesn't comply. That then we give it back to you. You got to make the fixes. If we're now your QC department, it takes a while.
Yeah.
If everything is perfect from the get-go, nothing will ever be perfect.
That's
someone's
going to
read it and say, well, I don't like this word.
Yeah.
It may not be that nuanced, but there's probably going to be one correction. Maybe the dates are wrong or something like that. Have you written technical manuals before?
Have I written technical manuals? No, I haven't. This is my first time doing this.
You're gonna. There's a way to organize them. You have table of contents and you have a list of effective pages.
Yeah,
that's called your control page. So the list of effective pages is going to account for all your pages, for instance. So if you make a change at page 57 of the manual, and that's going to have a specific date and a revision on your list of effective pages, it'll match. That's on that the date on that page.
Okay,
and that's the control page, so that you're not slipping one in. Everything is approved, and it's things like that. Usually that's where the mistakes are.
Okay.
It's the skeleton of the manual. It's not so much that we're not going to say, well, we don't like Abbeville because the AWOS there is not good and we want you to go to Thibodeau.
Okay.
It's not going to be something like that. It's usually some technical writing thing.
Yeah. And then after the documents are all approved, then the FSDO comes out and inspect, right?
Correct. They'll inspect your facilities because, Part 141, you got to have climate control facilities free of distraction, for the purpose of doing your ground school training. They'll look at your airplanes. Although a lot of people don't realize 141 is not an airplane standard. That is a training standard. So your planes are maintained to 91 with flight instructions. So 100-hour plus the 411, 413 inspections.
Yeah.
ELT.
Yeah,
the normal stuff plus the 100 hours.
Yeah.
So as long as your planes are airworthy, in
all
decent
the
conditions.
Yeah.
And then you got to have the equipment too. So if you have a part of your TCO where you're teaching GPS approaches, and you're going to give people credit for that, but you don't have a plane that has a GPS.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Just you got to make sure it all matches.
Yeah. And then after that, so if everything looks good, then
that's the demonstration. The validation demonstration phase is successful. Then they'll do your check rides for your personnel.
Okay.
So your chief instructor, you have a chief instructor check ride, which I'm assuming is going to be you.
Yeah.
So you can look at are you familiar with 8900?
Yes.
So you look at 8900, it tells you what you're going to do, and pretty much you pick. So if usually you're going to do 3 TCOs is what we give you. You get your private, instrument, commercial.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a one maneuver from the private's TCO, one from the instrument, one from the commercial, and you could either teach or demonstrate, or it could be 2. You're going to teach one, demonstrate one from the instrument. Same with the commercial and the private.
Or anything?
No, it's just a check ride.
It's just a flight check ride.
There may be an oral based on the briefing of your TCOs, how well you understand it.
Okay.
Do you know why we're doing this? What's the requirement?
Yeah.
It's an annual requirement that you have to do this. You also have to take a FERC annually as a chief instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. And make sure that you understand all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like an oral, like, all right, tell me about part 91 and how much? What's your alternate minimums? It's not an oral like that. It's going to be about your flight school. Yeah, that's the validation demonstration. Validation, they come out, validate what you said.
Yeah.
So these are my facilities, blah blah. These are my airplanes. They validate the information. Demonstration, basically for the 141, is just your check ride.
Yeah.
Everything's happy. They finish what they're reporting, and then they issue your certificate.
Okay.
So once you're accepted, if you have everything together, I'm not guaranteeing a time frame, but it could be as little as 3 months.
Okay.
Someone's got to
quick.
read it all.
Yeah.
So, that's
Read it all. And
human
make sure
limitations of
yeah.
reading and stuff. But if it's if you bought a manual from Jeppesen, a TCO, I'm just using them as an example, not endorsing or anything.
Okay.
But if you bought a canned, TCO
Yeah.
and you take it and customize it to your operation, you submit that, probably going to go well. If you try and write one for yourself from the first time, and you've never written a technical manual, then it could be some back and forth.
Yeah,
Seems like that's what happened.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I mean, we using Jeppesen syllabus and their training material, their books,
Right.
and all that for the ground school. So,
I've seen some. You're ahead of the game. I've seen other flight schools that had a jet binder, a glide binder, and then some guy with a manila envelope with loose leaf papers.
Okay.
And it's like you got to pick one. I mean, you got to be. This is 141. You got to
Yes.
be standard. You can't just.
Yeah.
You can do the loose leaf method, but it has to be everybody.
Yeah. They have a list. Isn't there a list of all these different applicants? Because I got
You're in the queue.
when I queue, I'm in the queue, so I'm supposed
and
to
you should get updated.
a letter was saying where I am in the queue. But I know that they were checking everybody, and some people didn't even have facilities.
So this is what would happen in the old days. Everyone's in the queue, and then your number comes up. Hey, next month you're next up. So be ready. Okay, and then they're starting to look for an airplane or facilities, and they're writing their manuals. They didn't want to pre-do all this, and then so now you're up. Let's have the meeting. So they show up for the meeting. Okay, what's happening? Well, I'm working with the airport to get a lease on the space, and we got the plane is in Kansas City now, but it should be ready. It's in pre-buy, and we can't shut you down.
Yeah.
So all right, we're going to give you 30 days to come up with all this stuff. So now we got to wait 30 days. 30 days shows up. Okay, do you have anything? Well, here's my manuals. I'm still working on the lease with the airport, so we review the manuals. Now we're ready to come do the inspection. You haven't signed the lease with the airport. The plane had an issue in the annual or something with the pre-buy, and so now we give you 30 days. And so that time builds up. And then we end up terminating the project because you couldn't meet your deadline.
Yeah.
But we still wasted, say, 3 months. Then the next guy. And then how fair is that to you? You're number 15 down the line, and you got to wait on this. So what we started doing is we're going to vet you, I guess. I don't know what their technical term is, but we're going to check you out. So do you have facilities? Do you have airplanes? Do you have the manuals written? We'll do a cursory look through them. And if we're not, it's not a deep dive. It's just, do you have binders
everything?
With pages in them,
Yeah.
So we could look at it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And then if you are, then we keep you. If not, we kick you out the line. You go back. You don't kick you out the queue, but you lose your position. You go back to the end, and we give you more time to get ready. And that's out of fairness to everybody.
Yeah, and I know I got a letter, an email recently saying I'm in the queue now. So
yeah, I think you're coming up soon. So make sure you're ready.
Yeah. Well, good.
Soon could be a year or two. Could be 6 months. I don't know.
I'll take it tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you came.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Flight Tales, woo-woo.
If you've made it this far, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, we would just like to say thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about today's episode or suggestions for future episodes, just leave a comment or message us, and we'll do our best to answer. If you'd like to check out some fun aviation videos, check out our YouTube channel at Owens Flight Training. Or if you'd like to get more information on becoming a safe, knowledgeable, and confident pilot, just head over to our website, owensflighttraining.com.